Beauty photography does not necessarily have to surprise people with strange ideas. Ideally, my model shows herself to me, unguarded, real and beautiful. I want to capture such intimate moments. I'm looking for a true connection with my model. I want this moment to feel real in my photography. I want every detail of my image to be true to life. The Nikon Z7 II is first and foremost a very intuitive camera. It is a tool that delivers excellent image quality and just feels right in your hands. Instead of adding another layer between me and my model, it is an extension of my creativity and lets me focus on my work. Our set with the light tubes is easily my favorite from our shoot. It is a very challenging scene for a camera, with such a high dynamic range and bright colors, but we have managed to capture it so well.
The Nikon Z lens lineup is so powerful now, and we can show resolution, lines, textures and details with clarity like never before. And with the 50mm 1.2, we can add even more depth to our images. You can show so much more of your set, your background and the model surrounding. You get this super nice creamy bokeh that you are only used to see on larger telephoto lenses. The Nikon Z7 II has everything marine needs for professional reliability. There are dual memory card slots, and with the new battery grip, she can easily shoot all day. When you're working on a set where everything is moving and everything is moving fast, you have to be sure that your camera not only captures the resolution and the sharpness, but also to capture that perfect moment. And with the new Nikon Z7 II, Marie can have that confidence to rely on her camera to capture exactly that moment.
Every little detail has to add to the entire image, so it all comes together. And with the Nikon Z7 II and Z-mount system, I feel like I can do that more freely than ever before, without restrictions.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Nikon Ambassador Kristian Bogner, and I'm really excited to be talking about the new Nikon Z7 II. I had the pre-production model out here in the Rocky Mountains with me for just under 2 weeks. It was a very quick 2 weeks. This was from having the camera given to me to concept, ideas, execution, all during COVID where there were restrictions, masks need to be worn, difficult to get models and so many challenges, but I did really well and happy with the images I was able to produce, and I'm really stoked to be able to share them with you for the first time today. So let's get into it. As you can see, I shoot everything from landscapes to architecture to fashion to sports. I've been photographing since I was a little kid. Started my photography studio when I was 16 years old, and I'm a third generation master photographer. Proud to say that my grandfather started Bogner photography over 80 years ago. So the Z7 II, I call it a master's tool for creating any vision. And the reason why I call it that, because whether you're a pro photographer or you're just a passionate photographer or you're a hobbyist or enthusiast, it doesn't matter. It is a tool that no matter what level you're at, you will be able to get masterful quality images with it. And you know, I think for me personally, if I was to go to any commercial shoot and I could only choose to bring one camera, this would be it. This is the most versatile camera that I've ever used, from whether I need to shoot film on a gimbal to whether I need to be able to do fashion or landscapes or high-end commercial work. You've got the resolution, you've got the speed, You have the complete immersive feeling of the camera. It's lightweight, it's compact, and of course, the Z mount. The Z mount has been a game changer for me, and I know a lot of other pro photographers that are my friends and fellow ambassadors, because the quality of the optics, the quality of the lenses are so good. You can shoot wide open, you can shoot closed down, and for me, and all in a lighter weight package. It really, really is amazing, on top of having 5 stops of VR, so you can shoot without a tripod in situations. I can shoot, into a 15th of a second or a 30th of a second, no problem, where I couldn't dream of doing that at such high megapixels in the past. So the new gear is really a game changer. And I know for me personally, I am producing since mirrorless, I'm producing the best images of my lifetime. And it's obviously part of my own experience and evolution, but it has a lot to do with the capabilities of the camera, but also how I feel and connect to the camera and how it allows me to connect to my subjects. So let's get more into that. Let's get into the Z7 II. So I talked about this immersive photography and video experience. This is really important. Growing up in a photography studio, I had access to all sorts of different cameras. And I know that if I had my dad's Pentax 6.7, or I had a Hasselblad, or I had a Nikon, if I was switching to different formats, different cameras, different sounds, it gave me a totally different feeling. And I can tell you, for me personally, this camera feels really great to me. And I encourage anybody that is buying a camera to go and test it out, just to see how it feels. Make sure that it feels right for you. But yes, I love this camera. It feels great. I can't wait to try it out with the Moto Grip. But I think that one of the things that sets mirrorless apart, and I was involved with the Z7 original launch, and that was exciting. And I didn't think I was going to love mirrorless, and then I was pleasantly surprised, because I ended up loving it. But one of the things that's so amazing about mirrorless is when you pick the camera up, you put it up to your eye. Now I have access to heads-up display. I can adjust my virtual horizon. I can change to my histogram. I can see in real time my white balance adjustments, my autofocus adjustments, my picture control changes. I can see all that in real time. And as a result of that, I feel like it's just so much easier to connect to what you're getting and what you're shooting. And as you connect to what you're shooting, you connect to yourself. So I think that's all very, very powerful. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about an immersive experience. And when I would talk about it being a master's tool, because it helps you master your own capabilities, because it's just so intuitive. And it allows you to immerse yourself. And I think that's really important when you're creating. You don't want to be distractions. You don't want it to be waiting for the camera. You want it to be nimble. You want it to be powerful. And this specific camera, the Z7 II, they've added an additional processor. So it's got 2 processors, and I really, really noticed the difference. I noticed it everywhere. I noticed it in electronic viewfinder. I feel like it's smoother. It allows me to see that moment better. I notice it shooting. I notice it in autofocus. I notice it all the way around, and I think that is a great advancement, because everything runs smoother. It's like the difference if you bought a new computer, and it's a powerful computer, and you've been working on a slower computer. You notice the difference. You notice the speed in everything. And that's kind of how I feel about this particular camera. So my assignment was commercial photography. And of course, where did I start with the camera? Black and white fine art photography. And that's typical of me, because I love switching gears. I went out to source some locations, and I ended up just deciding that I was going to stop and photograph some of these amazing clouds that were out there, because we when I got the camera, we had some not great weather. It was sort of the switching from autumn to winter, but we did have great clouds. And so I switched my camera to black and white in camera. And one of the things that I love about the Z series cameras is all the new picture control settings. And I've always been a big fan of picture controls. I like getting it right in camera. For me, it's like choosing your film type. And but picture controls give you control over saturation, sharpness, clarity, but then there's all these other picture control options that give you totally different looks. You can also pick black and white ones, and so I have a programmed black and white picture control setting that gives me kind of this Ansel Adams kind of look, this high contrast black and white. And I've done some experimentation and played around with a few things, and a few color filters, and this is what I came up with. But the Z7 II allows me to get images like this without any post-processing whatsoever. I can do it all in camera. In fact, when I was shooting with this pre-production camera, I didn't know if I'd actually be able to access my RAW files after the fact, because sometimes it just doesn't work with the RAW files. So I shot RAW plus JPEG. Now, thankfully, I was able to access some of my RAW capabilities, not all, but most. But still, I was shooting it to get it right in camera. And again, these were just a couple images I got while driving to source my other locations, but just the light was fantastic. The clouds were fantastic. These clouds especially were epic. They're just huge, and I love that high contrast, kind of deep blacks, looking at texture, looking at shape. I shot some vertical video as well, which was kind of fun, and I shot it in black and white because I figured, why not? Why not? That was my intention, and so why not focus on my intention directly in camera versus shooting it in color and trying to convert it later on in post or whatever. There's something very gratifying about being able to capture right in camera, in the moment, and modify it in the moment if you want to. So yeah, had some fun with it, and I got some really cool images and that little bit of a time lapse in the center there. So commercial photography, this was my real assignment, and one of the things that I love to do when I get any camera is I like to put it through a bit of an extreme field test. So I love to switch gears, switch subjects, put it through some different paces. But one of the really powerful ways of doing that is commercial photography, where you're using strobes, you're using sometimes difficult locations, you're dealing with models, all those kind of things. You don't have the opportunity to go again. You got to nail it. When your client's paying you, you've got to nail it right in the moment. And so here were a couple shots that I was able to get. So this was an interior that I got. One of the things that is striking about the Z7 II to me is just, taking off on the Z7, the original Z7, it's just the incredible dynamic range. I never used to be able to shoot interiors like this with one image. I'd have to shoot maybe potentially multiple images, or I'd have to do a really sophisticated lighting setup to get nice balanced light. But here I've been able to just use two SB5000s, bouncing off the ceiling a little bit, not a whole lot of power. And with one raw shot, I'm able to pull on the shadow detail and pull on the highlight detail and produce an image that has a lot of dynamic range. And those light areas and those dark areas, I've got detail in both. And that is just phenomenal about this camera system, and I utilize that in all sorts of different things. Sometimes I do in-camera HDR, but these days I don't even really need to very much, because the camera just allows me to pull so much in the raw information. You can also use de-lighting and set that to a higher level. It does a really good job with this de-lighting as well because of the dynamic range. So as I mentioned before, with COVID, it was really difficult sourcing things. I really wanted to try to photograph a private jet, but I realized that would be super difficult to arrange under the circumstances. And so I asked around. My one good buddy lent me his Ducati for about a week, so I'm very grateful. Thank you. It was fab to photograph. I love shooting with the lights on. It doesn't look specifically Ducati, so I love that about it. It just looked a bit more generic, but I love the colors. I love the shape of it. And I used multiple studio lights to create this image with a little bit of a fog machine for some atmosphere. This image I shot handheld, but I dragged the shutter a little longer. I used some RGB LED lights to create some more atmosphere. Dragged the shutter for the fog a little bit to create some more kind of movement in the fog, but my studio strobes to lock down the exposure, gave me nice clean lines on the bike. The image on the left, I took a glass and some fake ice in there and just basically threw it up in the air into a kiddie pool with some foam. It only broke a handful of glasses in the process, but that was a lot of fun. I wish I had more time with that one. I just used food coloring to create the color in the glass. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to capture it. You know, one thing to note, when you're shooting images like this, the camera may shoot up to, the shutter may work up to an 8,000th of a second, but when you're using flash in a darker room like I was, the flash can have an even shorter duration. So that's how I was freezing the action, freezing the water. I was using the flash burst duration to freeze the action there. And then the image on the right was an image that I was able to create just to kind of mimic an industrial location shot. And this particular image I was able to get with these leading lines. I was just on a hike and I saw these, I guess they're front loaders maybe, and you know, it was up on the mountain like that, and there's these leading lines that drew you up into that shot. I thought, oh, this is so cool, and they're yellow. So I basically waited till both arms were out, which took quite a long time, but I was able to nab the shot. And I like it because of its illustrative capabilities, also the tones, the contrasting tones of the blue and the yellow. I really like that with the shot. And this one was a little more sophisticated. This was two glasses flying through the air. This was harder to do, and two different food colorings, but again, really cool shot. A lot of fun. Had the light, a backlight, blowing off of the white background to kind of help illuminate the glassware from the back. So then I wanted to get a little bit creative, and I wanted to create something that really showcased the Nikon's ability to capture amazing color in camera. And I've always loved big, bold colors, and I thought also it would be really fun to contrast some of those fine art black and whites that I did with some big, powerful colors. So I went to an art shop, got some new pencil crayons that were sharpened, picked up this little sharpener here, and tried to create sort of this image that looked like a zipper, and just kind of a little bit of a play there. And I really love the camera's ability to capture big color like this right in camera. And this image was a fun shot. I basically taped these pencil crayons together against a board, hung it, and you can see on the right, I've shot video with the camera at 4K 60. So I've slowed it down to half speed so you can see a little closer to what I was getting on the left, where I was really freezing that action. But that whole effect was created in camera, not in post. So, and you can see on the right, as I'm varying my hairdryer speed, I tried multiple different devices to like a compressed air, all sorts of things, but my hairdryer was the best I found to create the desired effect. So if you want to try that at home, I would start with a hairdryer, not a compressor. It's way too powerful, as I found out. Yeah. Now, one of the things that I like to do, especially when I have an assignment or like a 2-week assignment like this, where I'm just shooting commercial, is just switch gears, right? Switching gears can not only allow you to connect with a different subject, especially something like nature, where it's very peaceful. It can really help you connect to your surroundings, and as you connect to your surroundings, you connect again to yourself. And but it's just very recharging. And so I got out in nature, and how could I not with beautiful fall colors like this? I definitely, again, wanted to see what the camera could do for landscapes, because it's one of the areas that I really use this camera, and it really performs so well with that dynamic range. So this image, sort of some beautiful golden light. Another image where we've got a little bit of atmospheric fog and some golden colors on the top. Later in the day, most of these shots. This particular image here was showcasing actually the brand new 14-24 f2.8, which I absolutely love, love, love. It's amazing. It's so sharp, edge to edge. It reminds me of the old 17-35, which I used to love. It is so much smaller and lighter than its f-mount counterpart, the 14-24 f-mount. Yeah, I can't say enough about it. It is just really a fantastic lens. I think this will end up being one of my favorite and most used lenses for a lot of my commercial work and landscapes. So definitely loving that lens. I shot most of these with that lens as well. Here I've got some spin drifts coming off the mountain, and you can see that dynamic range again where I'm shooting almost right into the sunlight, and I've still got detail in the whites, which is really fantastic. The weather changed from fall to winter while I had the camera in my 2 weeks, not to mention super high winds. You can see the image on the right, I was sort of playfully shooting up at the trees, center, that was a sunset image, and using probably cloudy white balance just to further warm up the image a little bit. And the image on the left was just a very illustrative image. You know, it's one of those where you're driving down the road and you see this nice S-curve, and I had to drive way up above and got a little exercise running to the spot. And I got lucky where the cyclist was just driving on that S, and I was able to kind of create a point of interest in that shot, which I love. This was one of my favorite fall type images. This is Vermilion Lakes in Banff, and it's one of my favorite little spots. You know, you can usually find somewhere along there that is just stunning. It seemed to, the fall colors, in a lot of places that was, with the high winds, the leaves were flying around, but here everything looked very majestic still and pretty untouched. So I was able to get some really good shots. And interestingly enough, as I was taking that shot, this dragonfly caught my eye. And I feel like dragonflies and hummingbirds are my nemesis sometimes. And so I was able to, I thought, you know what, I'm going to really test out this autofocus. I'm going to try to capture this dragonfly in flight. And I did. And this really impressed me because it really showed me that, I mean, not only does the Z7 II have some new focus modes that are very effective, but it just seems to autofocus that much better. And so I'm very impressed with the new autofocus capabilities of the camera, which was always one area I wanted to see improved, and I'm really glad Nikon did it. So part of landscape photography is getting up early. For the 2-week period, I think I looked out my window every morning to see if it was clear. And if it was clear, I got up, got outside, and here was one of the payoffs of some alpenglow with some blue sky. Driving around, a lot of these images I got just kind of driving back and forth to potential locations for my commercial shots. and just taking an opportunity to take a shot, in these beautiful moments. Most of these images, again, are shot handheld. I love that I can do that. I love that I can shoot at slower shutter speeds because the camera has that 5 stops of vibration reduction in camera stabilization. So that, again, that is another one of those game changers, that the VR on the sensor. It is very powerful. And all my images are just sharper as a result of it, especially because it's, the camera's producing a very high resolution. And so you want to make sure there's absolutely no camera shake, and the camera helps you do that, and it does it very, very well. Again, love the color that I can produce with the camera. And, love these kind of moody images where I'm able to pull so much data, and just the nuances in some of the colors. I find with the Z series cameras, my style after 30 years has changed, because of this extra dynamic range. I'm able to shoot, and I like the look of shooting images a little more cinematically, a little bit more detail in the blacks, and a little bit less punchy. And I've been doing that, and so it's funny how this camera has actually helped me evolve as a photographer, as a storyteller, and it's giving me a different look, which I'm very grateful for. This particular image here is, you get, every once in a while you see some rare iridescent clouds, and the Z series camera just picks up so much amazing color sometimes even colors you can barely see with the naked eye. I've really noticed this shooting the Northern Lights out here. I'll be looking at the Northern Lights, and the camera will be picking up purples and pinks and greens, and I won't even be seeing it. And I was hoping to get out to a place called Yoho National Park to do some time lapses and photograph the Takaka Falls, but I waited to the last minute. The weather was supposed to improve, and we got a snowstorm, so I never got to do it. But I did get some local time lapses and some cool video. That was just a quick time lapse I was able to get. One of the things that I absolutely love about this Z7 II is it allows you to shoot time lapses and interval time lapses, but it also allows you to shoot interval time lapses, and it will build a time lapse for you at the end. And that's how I did this. I shot the time lapse and I had it build in 4K, and then I was able to just zoom in and out on the image. So even though sometimes I don't have the camera on, I'm not moving it, but I can give that sense to make it look like I'm moving it by zooming in on the resolution and rendering it 1080p. Now let's talk about detail. This duck was shot with my 500 PF, and wow, the detail is just absolutely incredible. And even with video, and one of the new features is that 4K 60. I'm able to shoot 4K 60, slow the frame rate down to 4K 30, and then if I wanted to, I could render in 1080p and zoom in almost 4 times. Now this was shot completely handheld with my 500mm lens. That's how good that VR on the sensor is. That it just completely stabilizes the image, and even without a tripod, it makes it look like I've been shooting it on a tripod, which is absolutely incredible. I got this guy too. This was shot from the window of my car. And again, it's really nice to be able to slow that frame rate down a little bit, to cut it in half speed. It helps you just kind of connect with the subject a little bit more. And it's just a good tool. You don't want to shoot everything like this necessarily, but if you're shooting on a gimbal sometimes, if you're not trying to record someone talking, you're shooting wildlife, it's nice to be able to slow things down. You can also use your slow motion profiles to create some slow motion video right in the camera. Oh, and there it goes. And I had to show one more duck because I love this one too. I can't tell which one has more detail. I couldn't decide, so I wanted to put them both in because it's just something as simple as this, just this beautiful duck that I came across. Um, Even as a pro photographer, when I see this kind of detail coming to my camera or I see this kind of detail on my wall, I am so excited. I want to reshoot anything I've ever shot at that quality level. And I really, really am so impressed with the quality that I'm able to get from this camera. This was kind of a cool shot, just the perfect timing. Just as he was looking off, these birds flew in behind there, and I got the shot with the birds in the right location. And that, again, having a few extra frames per second, like the Z7 II does, that can be the difference sometimes in getting the shot. Because if one of those birds was a little closer to its head, it could have been not as good an image. Now this one I'm really proud of. It's one of those where I just trusted my gut and I decided, okay, I'm gonna go hop in the car and I'm just gonna go see if I'm gonna find a grizzly bear. And I know it's a crazy thing, but I thought, chances are they're probably already hibernating. There's probably chances are I'm not gonna see one, but I'm just feeling like I'm in that mode today and I wanna give it a shot. So I saw nothing until the very end of the day, after the sun had already gone down. It was very dark, and I saw this mama bear. And I just kind of waited there by my car, and I got out of my car, just like right beside it. And then she started getting a little curious and started coming at me. So I got back in my car, and she got more curious. In a good way, not in a bad way, but she got very close, so close that when I was using my autofocus, I couldn't focus anymore because she was so close with my 500 millimeter. But I got this one as she started walking away again. I got this one shot of her just kind of looking back at me, and what really blew me away is that this is at 10,000 ISO. And I didn't think the Z series cameras were going to perform like this. But they do. They really, really perform well at those high ISOs. I'm so impressed with what I'm able to get with the Z series cameras at the higher ISOs. And also, I was really impressed with the new low light focusing capability of the Z7 II. When I was looking through the viewfinder, it was really, really dark. It was way brighter than what I'm used to seeing, and that was very, very impressive and helped me get the shot. Now, as the bears ran away, Mama Bear and her littler one, I decided to kind of follow at a distance, big distance. And so I think this is my 500 PF, maybe my 500 PF with my 1.4, making a 700 mil. It was really far away, and I was shooting this handheld at a very high ISO, and it was getting darker and darker and darker. But I was still able to capture something. I was still able to capture this moment, which was pretty spectacular. Having these bears that they knew I was there. They're letting me photograph them. They're digging in the roots there. It's pretty cute watching them run in the snow like this. But I was able to capture this right in my camera, handheld, not prepared for this at all, but I was able to get it. And that's the main thing, right? Is to be able to capture the moment, to be able to tell that story, and do it no matter what you have. And that's why I say this is such a master's tool, because I can always get something great with it. That's how I feel about it. I really encourage you to give it a try for that reason, and see if it's the right camera for you. So switching back to commercial, once the adrenaline wore off from my close to close encounter with the bear, I got back to photographing some portrait and fashion. I was really impressed with how the autofocus worked. Both the eye detect autofocus and the pinpoint autofocus worked really well for my fashion stuff. So I started off with my wife. We went out and got some shots. There's no fill light here, that's the amazing dynamic range again, being able to shoot and have still nice detail in her face, even though the light from the side is very harsh. I took her out, and when it snowed, we got some images just in the woods behind our house here. And I used the slow motion feature in vertical format to get a little bit of a fun slow-mo video handheld. I photographed one of Sarah's really good friends, which we'll see later on, and her boyfriend came to help out, and he told me that he was a medalist in luge, and I was so impressed, and he's such a great guy. And so I asked him if I could. I basically begged him if that I could take a few shots of him, so he let me do a few in the studio. I used some really nice contrasty lighting. I was able to use my picture control settings to increase the clarity and give it a bit more of a gritty look to it, which I really like. Yeah, so I love the ability to customize my look right in camera like this. So this next model was really awesome. Her name's Caitlin. She was such a trooper. She came all the way out from Drumheller. You know, during COVID, it was really hard to kind of find people, right, willing to come out, coming to a studio and working on things. One of my mentoring students, actually, I knew she had shot some cosplay stuff, so I reached out to her, and she put me in touch with this person. And Caitlin also, she designed and created this entire costume all from scratch. Really, really impressive. And she was an amazing model, and we got some really cool shots. The one thing that I wasn't expecting when she came were these horns were lit up with a very kind of dim light, but I was using my big studio strobes that I'd set up. So what I ended up having to do is drag the shutter, expose a little longer, handheld, which I could do to expose for those horns, but then use my studio strobes to lock in the action. My strobes allow me to turn a modeling lamp on and off, so I was able to pre-focus, get everything right, and then I'd be like 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3, and then I'd take a picture and get her to emote an expression. But it actually worked out really well, and I was able to get some phenomenal shots of her in the process, and she held still so well. I was so impressed. But these are a couple of the shots that I got, and love how that natural fog machine created such a really cool dynamic to the images. I had a martial arts sword that I brought back from Japan on one of my trips, so we used that as a prop in one of the shots. Again, I just love what I was able to get with those images. So moving on, this was a professional model, Emily, that I hired. She was fantastic. I had photographed her once before, and I tracked her down and got her to come out. And the bike, we still had the bike, so I was able to get a couple shots of her on the bike very, very quickly. For this particular shot here, again, I was shooting handheld, I dragged the shutter, trying to get a little atmosphere. I had her hold really still. And you know, the beauty lighting, you know, used my studio lights to basically illuminate it really nicely. While she was on the bike, I did a little bit of 4K 60 video, and this is what I got. And again, that 4K 60 is such a huge feature for me, because I shoot a lot of work on gimbals. I shoot a lot of work where I just want to be able to slow it down a little bit, smooth things out a bit. And I think it's going to be really a benefit to me in my workflow to be able to have that as an option. Here I've done a little bit of speed ramping, so I'm able to kind of render at 4K 30 or 1080 30. So I'm able to then potentially zoom in and out up to 4 times if I render it at 1080 30, and slow it down half speed or ramp it up in speed. And so it gives me a lot of flexibility. I shot all of this just with the camera on a tripod, but I would have loved to have used the gimbal. I just didn't have time. But yeah, I shot this all on a tripod, but by zooming in and out and ramping speed a bit, I was able to create a bit more of a different effect. She was a beautiful model. I had hair and makeup for this as well, so they came out with masks and everything. They were super amazing to work with. I bought a powerful air purifier for our studio room so we could work with a little less worry. But definitely the logistics were challenging, but we got through it. Everybody was really awesome. And look at this detail we were able to get on this model. Really, really spectacular. I really loved her eyes. She had great eyes, so I really focused on those in the shots. I came up with some really cool backgrounds. I ordered some kind of shower curtain-y stuff that's for the left one, and on the right, that's just an emergency blanket. Sometimes I was just trying to, going through my stuff, I found this emergency blanket in a first aid kit, and I was able to use that with green gel once I saw the clothing that she brought out with her, and created a really kind of a cool edgy background, which is something that was laying around. And I love doing stuff like that, right? I love improvising and making whatever I have work. That's a lot of fun. So then I switched gears from studio strobe lighting to continuous light sources. And this kind of reminded me of my grandfather. He was a portrait photographer, mostly in Germany. He was good friends with Ernest Lights and a Nikon Ambassador back in the day, but he would use one main light most of the time and then mirrors to reflect that light and get beautiful lighting on his clients. And so I wanted to do something like that. So I set the camera up with picture controls in black and white again. So the image on the left is what I actually shot in RAW. But then I wanted to give an example of how you can shoot black and white in RAW, and then you can go back afterwards in Nikon Capture NXI and switch the color control mode, the picture control mode. And so I literally switched it to one of the other custom picture control modes that are offered, and got this color, really interesting, kind of almost like a cross-process looking type of image. So just wanted to kind of show how you can do that. You can always shoot black and white in camera and then go back to color later if you want to. And you can also practice with your color control points, practice with your picture controls by just switching it up when you're at home, and you can see what they do. So when you're out in the field, you know which ones you can use. Here are a few more with continuous light. You can see it looks a little bit more high contrast. I kind of wanted to go with kind of a Hollywood type look, and I really like the effect. Hey guys, for my Nikon Z7 II photo assignment, I wanted to do something really unique and special. I've always loved painting with light, so I started experimenting with some new LED lights, trying different things, trying some different colors, and decided on a more custom solution. So trips to the hardware store, I found some clear pipes, and I've got a very powerful flashlight here and some colored gels that I've just wrapped on the inside with some elastic bands on the end where I can put some sparklers if I want to. So I've got myself a pretty cool lightsaber here, and by moving it in different ways, and you'll see pretty soon, I can't do it in this room because it's not enough room, but you can make circles, you can make different waves, and you can record that light and behind your subject. And as you do it, if you move and you wear dark, then it's you don't really show up in the image, but this has enough power to light your subject. So I had a lot of fun creating these images, and I hope you enjoy them. All right, so I think these coming up are my favorite of the group. They were also had the most at risk. Big, huge thanks to this model, my wife's friend and my friend, Annie. You braved the cold for us. It was below zero when we did this. It was like, put the jacket on you, get it set up, take the jacket off, quick shot. It was very, very difficult to pull these off. Again, it was my first time doing anything, exactly like this. And so obviously I did not want to fail. We had stars for the first time in the, that I had the camera. I've been wanting to shoot stars for 2 weeks, and we had stars that night. So, I mean, it really made the shot. And I just love how this turned out. I have a, sparkler on the outside edge. Then there's little spacers, so there's white light coming through, and then my pink gel. I'm standing behind her and I'm just sort of rotating it and trying to make a proper circle, which is not easy. Then this image was just waving it around a little bit. It turned out quite well as well. If you move quickly, you have to move out of the shot as you do it. Otherwise, you're gonna be seen a little bit. So here, I was moving quick enough. You can see a little bit of a tracer of me, but not much. And I think to pull these shots off, because I think I only got about 2 tries at it. It was like a one series where we did it, and then jacket on, and then at one point she went back to the car for a little bit, and then I kind of evaluated, and then we went back out and did one last set. I could have done it all night, even though I had huge soakers. I had my rubber boots were completely full of water because I was running around in the water there. I just kind of dumped them out at the end of the shoot like that. But listen, I'm really happy these turned out, and really excited for the future with those. And as I was mentioning, this was my only star night. I was hoping for another one after this, but it never happened. Never had a clear night. So after the model and her boyfriend who was helping and my wife all went back to the house, I promised everybody some Indian food. So I ordered the food, packed up the gear, and then decided that I still had 15 minutes before the food was going to be ready to pick up. So I drove out to a location, prayed that I could see the Milky Way. Sure enough, I could. This was a quick setup. It wasn't what I planned. I planned a extravagant night shoot one night, but this was it. It was a 15-minute shoot, autofocused on the stars, zoomed in on the back of the camera, double-checked the stars were tight, and it took about 5 to 10 images. And then went and picked up the Indian food. And then I tried, after everybody left, I tried to go back out, and it had already clouded over. So sometimes that's all you get. And I love that. Another reason that I truly believe this is a master's tool is because when you need it to work, and exceed your expectations, it does. And it's a true tool for you. It's like, because it doesn't let you down. And I think that's the important thing as a pro commercial photographer. When I'm traveling and I'm getting paid to do a shoot, I need to trust that my equipment will not let me down, that it's going to work for me, and it does. And I think that the Z7 II is definitely going to be my favorite camera once again, and I'm very excited to get my production model hopefully soon here. So I love that shoot so much that I begged my wife to go back out on the last night that I had the camera, and we'd try it again. And sure enough, there was no stars that night. It was overcast. You can see the lights of the town reflecting back up to the off the sky, but I was able to get a really cool shot of my wife, who also braved the even colder weather, I believe. It was so thank you, hun. And I did a bit of a rainbow kind of shot here, and this is my favorite of the shots that I got of her. We had I think 1 sparkler, maybe 2, and then my lighter broke. And so that was it for the sparklers. So it kind of cut our possibilities a little short, but you can still get the shot without the sparklers. I really like the look of it with the sparklers. It kind of adds a lot more ambient light. Ever since I've done this shoot, I've already come up with like 10 more ideas on how I can improve on this and improve on my technique. So I can't wait to do it again and do it better. But this is what I was able to get, and I'm really, really thrilled we were able to nail it and get some really good shots with it. So I wanted to just kind of end with, Nikon asked me to do commercial images. And as you can see, I did some traditional commercial images, but I went beyond that. I stayed true to my ideas and the ideas that came up in my vision. And the moment where I was driving around looking for a location for a commercial shoot, but I saw something beautiful and I stopped. And I honored that moment by photographing and recording it, and recording its amazing energy. And so I encourage you to do that, right? Listen to that insight, right? Listen to that inspiration that you have from within, and let it guide you. And with COVID and everybody dealing with the stuff, I'll tell you that photography has been my salvation. Just to go out, if I'm feeling stressed or whatever, to go out and just find something beautiful to photograph and focus on the beauty around me, and to capture it with a level of excellence. And it's been, anytime I've been stressed and I've been able to go out and do that, I've felt better. I've felt amazing, and I've connected to something beautiful, and that's helped me reconnect to myself. And it's just sort of changed my perspective and brought my perspective back to where it should be. And so I encourage you to use photography, not just to get great images, but also for you just to help you connect to everything around you. I wish you all well, stay healthy, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see more stuff that I'm doing, please check out my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And thank you again so much. Cheers.